Okay, welcome back to the Itsy Game Series. This is episode 12, Procedural Level Generation and Spawning Our Start Pipe. I don't want to spend too much time in the intro because the video itself is kind of long. But in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to set up all of our framework for our procedural generation. And by the end of the video, we are spawning in a starting pipe based on weighted values from our data tables. So we do a little bit of changing things up, but not a whole lot from the last one. And then we move in and we just kind of get to going. I also want to throw out a disclaimer here. There is no wrong way to do anything except the one that's not yours. I am still learning just as much as anyone else. So my implementation, the way I'm doing this, someone with more knowledge might come by and say, well, no, you could do it more efficiently doing this way. And that's probably totally true and accurate. This is just my solution to the problem and how I'm working it out. So, like, if you take a look at what I did and you want to add to it, make it different, you go right ahead. I don't want anyone to think that this is the only way to do anything. I mean, there's a million ways to code anything. So I don't want that to be like, this is gospel truth. So anyway, that being said, I'm excited to continue forward with the series, and I'm looking forward to getting it out there. So let's get out of the intro and get to programming our stuff. Okay, so here we are in Visual Studio. To give you a heads up, I recorded this video and my recording software crashed at the very end. And then to make things more interesting, my save files for the last video didn't just weren't there. I don't know what I did. I really should have used source control from the get-go, but whatever. Maybe I'll go back and I'll add source control here in a bit. So anyway, mental note: source control is good. So long story short, this is pretty much brought up to where we should be with a couple of small changes. I'll talk about those as I go. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is updating or creating the framework for our procedural level generation, and we're going to start with generating our start pipes. So within the editor, we're going to do a couple of quick things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of our old pipe table. We're going to get rid of that because we're going to do that in a slightly different way. So go ahead and get rid of that. And then we're also going to need some assets to reference our start pipes. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, kind of like what we did before. We're going to duplicate one of the 90s, and then we're going to rename it start. And then 0, 1. Okay, and then we'll duplicate that 2 more times, just kind of keeping with the same setup. Okay, now I've got 3 assets to work from. I want to be able to tell them apart from everything else, so I'm going to create some new material instances using my grid box material that we created in the parameterized material. It's like the first video I did. So I'm going to create this, and again, you don't have to do this part. I'm just doing it, makes it easier on me. So then it's going to be start, and then 0, 1. And then I'll go ahead and copy that. Okay, and I'm going to use the triplanar. Okay, create that one. Open this up. Set it to physical size. We did this before, so if you're doing the exact same thing I am, feel free to skip ahead a little bit. We're just going to go ahead and create a new material and set it for each of these, and then adjust those. So, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this. So these are our parameters. All right. And so in the colors, I'm going to make this kind of a yellowy color, I think, for the start pipes. And then I'll set them to 2 and 2. games, and this is going to be the pipe start 01. So, all right. So that way I can see it when it pops up. So then you can see right here, start 01. All right. So the first one is done, and then I can close that instance down. And then I got to do that two more times. So it's the same process. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'm probably going to add more pause or breaks here. So that way if it crashes, I don't have to regenerate everything again. So I'm going to finish these other two pipes. All I'm going to do is make them a slightly different shade of yellow. So feel free to do something similar on your own, and then I will meet you back. Okay, so I have my 3 pipe assets here set and ready to go. Now I can get over into Visual Studio, and from there that's pretty much where we're going to be living for a little bit. Just to kind of get ahead a little bit, we're going to need a child class for the start pipes. So we're going to go ahead, why don't we do that now while we're here in the editor. So we'll create a C++ class derived from the pipe base, and then we're going to name it Itsy underscore pipe start. All right, so go ahead and create that class now. Index. We should be good. All right. Let it think about its life. Sometimes it's better for me to just wait till it's done indexing and then get in there. So as that's thinking about stuff, so we're going to have the pipe starts, and we're going to use those for obviously for the pipe start. Later on, we'll have an end pipe, and then we'll have connector pipes and all of that jazz. And I think eventually I'll probably create a instanced one where it'll make a long pipe out of meshes. Okay, so that all worked. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the editor down because we don't need that now. Save everything. Okay, so let's get this rolling. So one thing that I did that's going to be different is you have in here in your constructor for the game instance where we were saving a reference to our data table. You want to go ahead and get rid of both the reference and the app object finder. We're going to go ahead and do that in a slightly different way that's going to be more robust for what we're doing. So go ahead and pull that out. You'll be able to find that in your gameinstance.h. It'll be one of your protected variables, if I remember correctly. And then it'll also be over here as an app object finder in the constructor. So go ahead and get rid of those. And then while we're in here in the game instance, one of the things that I ran into that I, as I was testing in my test environment, right now we have the calls for the regenerate level and set seed, and that's great, but I'd kind of like to be able to do that all at once. So I'm going to create another function here that's executable that we can do that with. So we're going to go ahead and say u function, and then blueprint callable in case you ever want to use it in the blueprints, and then executable, and then it's going to return void. And we can't name it regenerate level and then add a signature in there like we can in normal C++. The build tool doesn't like that for the executable stuff. So we're just going to name it something slightly different. So regen level seeded. And then we're going to take an int 32 and then in seed. Okay. So just kind of an aside, the editor can only use so many different integer types, right? So we're going to use an int32 because that is accessible from blueprints. One of the things that, like, in the coding standards they talk about is if you use just a regular C++ int, it's not necessarily guaranteed to be right when it gets to the other end, like depending on what platform it's on. So they give you a list of different, like, integer types that work, but they don't really say a whole lot about which ones work in the editor. So far, int32, uint8, I think, work. So that's part of what we're doing. And anything that needs to be serialized or replicated should not be just a standard int. It should have, it should be specified exactly what it is. So just as a kind of a side note there. Okay, so now we can create that signature for the we can define that function. So Itsy regen level seeded. Okay, and we're gonna make this. It's gonna be super easy. We're gonna go level params to get at the level params, and we're gonna set the seed equal to the end seed, and then we'll just call regen level. So basically we're just kind of doing what we did here, and then huzzah, it's good. All right, so that should work for us there. And then let me double check. So I'm also kind of fixing stuff that I might have missed in setting things up. Okay, it looks like we're good. Okay, so the level params are there. Just kind of want to double check because, like I said, I'm rebuilding off of stuff that I did before. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We're gonna need to change a little bit in our pipe base. Okay, so one of the other things that we're gonna do is, like I said, we're gonna take advantage of inheritance from both the pipes and then also their data tables. And by doing that, we'll be able to do some kind of clever stuff, taking advantage of what we've got there. So let me pull this up and make sure I get the right thing. Let's see here. Looks like I didn't actually pull that up already, so okay. Easy fix. Easy fix. So, and again, I apologize to, it's kind of messed up my plans a little bit. Just imagine how amazing my first video would have been. All right, so let's see here. Open that notepad. So usually what I do is I open up my test environment files in Notepad, and then I can just kind of look to see what I already did. Pipe base. Yeah, pipe base.h. There it is. Okay, so good times. All right, so we're gonna change up this this table. That's one of the reasons why I was like, let's clear that out. I'm not 100% sure if we're gonna end up using this type or not. We may end up pulling that out later, and if we do, so be it. So the first thing we want to do is have our difficulty level in there. We're not going to do much with it today, but we're probably going to do another pass, go back in, and set that up. So go ahead and edit default only, and then blueprint read only, because we don't want to change this on the fly during gameplay. We want to just, set it once, and then, don't mess with it. So int uint 8. Because we really don't need a big number for this, so 0 to 255 is good. And then difficulty, and then we're going to set that to 0. And then we're going to come up here, and because we don't want to set values incorrectly in the editor, what we can do to kind of solve that is we can give it a meta tag. So meta equals, and then we're going to do clamp min equals 0, and then clamp max equal to 55. And that should get us there. And then the next one we're going to want is a weight. And the reason for this will be a little more apparent later, but what the weight is going to allow us to do is affect when things pull up randomly. So equals 0. We're going to start with clamping it at a max of 1,000, and then later on we'll probably circle back on that as well. And 32, and we're going to name this weight, and then it's going to start with a default value of 1. If we do 0, it shouldn't get called pretty much ever. So, or it might, but we're going to start with a value of 1. Okay, so there's our new data table, or new base data table. And then we're also going to change the signature of this init pipe. So we're going to leave the row name. We want to keep that, but then we also want a data table reference. So u data table, and then should be reference, and then table. All right, and then we'll go into the CPP for the pipe base, which is going to be right here. Okay, and then we gotta change the signature here as well. So it's u data table, pointer to it, and then okay, so huzzah. Okay, and we are not going to need anything else here. We can actually get rid of this because we're not really going to ever run the base. We could later go back and make this an abstract class if we wanted to, but and we may very well do that. But right now, this is good. Okay, let me give it a quick build. Make sure I didn't, dork anything up. So, and to give you a heads up, sometimes my I'm having a weird bug here lately where stuff is building and then or like failing, and then I build again and it works just fine. I think it's to do with the way I was saving my files. Like I said, I think I dorked something up in there. I don't have to like deep dive to figure out what I did wrong and how to fix it. So it probably just needs a real good rebuild. So okay, we got the pipe start, or the pipe bases should be good now. Okay. All right, so the next thing I think we're going to be working in pretty heavily is going to be our play level script. And we're going to be doing a whole heap of stuff in the play level script. So we may have to pop back out of that, but for now, this is where we're going to be. Okay, so the first thing I want to do in the play level script is I am eventually going to need a new data type that we're going to create in order to create kind of essentially like spawn tables. And so we want an F name of the pipe that we want, and then we also want a weighted value for it. And we'll actually use this for doing our random generation or our random selecting. So we're going to make kind of a generic structure that we can then reuse regardless of what kind of pipe it is, because it's just an F name and a weight. So we're going to do a ustruct. And then we're going to make that blueprint type. And then we're going to name it weighted F name. Okay. Weighted F name. All right, and it doesn't really need a whole lot in there. It just needs a U property, and this is edit anywhere, because we do, like, we don't care where we're at. We should be able to affect change on this everywhere. So read write, and then it's going to be an F name, and then it's going to be name and equal to just nothing. Okay, and then do the same thing again, U property, edit anywhere, blueprint read write. Okay, and then int 32, and then it's going to be weight, and then it's going to be equals 0. Start now. Huzzah. Okay, so now we have our, and I totally gooped that up. I did not spell that correctly at all. So let me double check that. It looks better now. Okay, so weighted F name. So now we've created our weighted F name. I think later on I'll go back and redocument this stuff, and I don't know, maybe I'll put a quick video. This is how I documented it, just to save on time. I will document some of the stuff, but yeah, I don't want to kill it with all the difficulty there. All right, so I got a private field here and a public field there. I'm gonna need a protected field. If I remember correctly, private fields will not be available in the editor, so we'll make it protected. Okay, and in this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a data table, or a place to save a reference to a data table for each kind of pipe. So the signature is going to end up being, or the way it's laid out is going to be a U property, and then it's going to be a edit default only, and then it's going to be category is going to be equal to pipe tables. Okay, and then it's going to be a U data table and a reference to that, or a pointer to that. So pipe table start, and then its default value will be null pointer, and that'll also allow us to say, hey, there's nothing set in there, this doesn't work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video again for brevity. I'm going to create another one for my end, my D90, my D9045, D45, D45, D90. So it's exactly the same. It's just the variable name is different. I went with pipe table and then whatever type of pipe it is as my standard. So you are welcome to do the same or do your own thing. So go ahead and put those in, and then I will restart the video once I get that in. Okay, so I got all of those variables in, and then I went ahead and built it and started it up so that way I can show you where that is. So if I go down to my level blueprint, because remember we're working in the level script, bring that over here so you can see it. And then I go into class settings. Where is that? Is not showing up now. Let's see your class settings, level script actor. Oh, it's got to be reparented. Apparently, I didn't do that in between setting up and fixing it. Okay, so yeah, now that it's derived from the correct class, so now our pipe tables show up. So we have a space to put in each of these tables. Now, one of the things that I was thinking about with this that would make this a lot nicer, or that I decided to do this for my reasoning, is we'll be able to go in and swap out pipe tables at any given time. So we can do different iterations of data tables. We can make like a different data set to test from, and we can change them at any point really easily just right here within the level blueprint. So that's kind of the goal there. So now that we have that set up, we can go ahead and create our first data table that we're going to use in this iteration. So go ahead and new data table, and then we'll go from here. And actually, no, we can't do that. We're not ready for that. So I'll just go ahead and close that down. So we need the pipe start. We'll need some additional work before we can get in there. So when we go over to there, I closed down my editor, went back into Visual Studio here, and pull up my pipe start. Let's see, start.cpp and .h. There we go. All right, so just like before, where we created the row base for our pipe bases, we're going to create an additional row bases for each of our child classes as well. So that way we can have specific information related just to that particular flavor of pipe. So in this case, it's going to be the pipe start. So we're going to just put something in there so that way we know it's there and we know everything's working. So ustruct, and then it's going to be blueprint type. And then we're going to name this one F start pipe table row base. And then public. And it's going to derive from F table, F pipe table row base. Okay. So that means it's going to get everything that the pipe table row base has plus anything that it adds to. So that's, inheritance. It's one of the most powerful things we have to work with here. So edit defaults only and blueprint read only, just like we were doing before. And we're just going to make this one an F vector. We may end up going back and changing this when we get to the point where we start circling back and making the child classes do things. Right now, they're mostly just there, so that way we can get the level generation in. So we'll say player start location, and then we're just gonna make that an F vector. And then make it a 0 vector. So there you go. That will work there. And then the next thing we're going to want to do in here is we are going to want to override our initialize. So we're going to say init pipe, and we're going to go ahead and override that. And then we'll go ahead and define it over here. So Itsy pipe start. There we go. All right. So then I will pull that up here. So pipe start CCP. Okay. So we're gonna do a couple of quick things in here. So if we're getting bad data in, we want to kick it back. So if table, so if not table, so like if it is null pointer, and if pipe row name is equal to just nothing, we're going to go ahead and return false. All right, and then we're going to grab the row data that we need from that data table that we're passing in. So we're going to need an F string, and we'll just call that context string. So a context string is required when doing a find row. It has to do with error logging and that sort of thing. I generally don't do anything with it other than just feed in a blank string. So that might be worth a deep dive if it's something you want to get more into. So start pipe. So start pipe, data row base, pointer, and we're going to call this data. And then it's going to come from our table. And we're going to do a find row. And then we're going to do it's a F start pipe table row base. Okay. And then it's going to be pipe row name and context string. And then that should grab that. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is make sure that the data came back good. So we're going to say if not data. So if our data came back as junk, we're going to say return false. And if, because we need certain things from it, so we're going to say if not data dot mesh. So like if we have a null pointer for the mesh, like nobody set it, like we got like we returned a row, but then the mesh within the row is null. Like, so it's not set, then it'll kick it back there as well. And at this point, we should know everything is good. So we're going to say mesh, and we're going to say set static mesh, and then it's going to be data dot mesh. And then that will set the mesh for us. And then at that point, everything should be good. So we'll return true. And there you go. So now our init pipe is good and functional up to what we're doing right now within our start pipe. So then we can go ahead and do a quick build, make sure we didn't goob anything up. And again, like I said, mine will probably fail and then I have to do it again and it'll be fine. I don't really figure out what I did wrong. I know what I did wrong, but I need to figure out how to fix it. So anyway, we're done with our pipe start now, so it should be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and close that down just to clean up my workspace a little bit. And then I will go back into my play level script. And yep, so play level script. And then we'll go ahead and I'll pull that up. Okay. And we're going to create some functions in here. I think that's the next thing we'll go ahead and do. We'll kind of set ourselves up for the functions that we need here. Okay, so in our private functions, or our private section here, we're going to add a U function. And we're going to name it a void. And we're going to call it, it's going to be a bit, these next ones are kind of a bit of a mouthful, but I wanted them to be really easily readable as far as what they do. So, populate pipe spawn array. Okay. And then that's going to take in a T array of F weighted names. And then it's a reference to that. And then that's our spawn array. And then we're also going to we're going to pull in our U data table. And then it's going to be a pointer to the data table. And then it's data table. Okay. All right. And then we're going to create another one. It's a U function. And then we're going to return an F name on this one. Name. And then it's going to be get random name from spawn array. And then it's going to be a T array again of F weighted names. And then again, it's a reference. And that's spawn. And we shouldn't be changing anything, so it's const. Okay. Alrighty. And then the next one we're going to want is a U function. And then it's going to be bool. And spawn start type. And then that's going to take in an F name. And we'll do pipe name. Huzzah. Okay, and then see if I can just kind of cheat it, let it generate the definitions for me. Looks like it's going to do what I want it to do. Sometimes it throws them in line and it drives me nuts. All right. What did I do? So I got random name, populate spawn. And then we'll do this one. There we go. All right. So now we have these functions in here. So that way we build as we go. I'm going to give them some just junk return values. Return F name. And then this one's a bool, so just return true. So that way, if we need to build, we can just do that. Okay, and then that should be it for our .h. Now we can get into the, well, I mean, we're in the CPP now, but it should be all the things that we need from the .h anyway. So I want my level script CPP. There we go. Okay, now we're going to be doing just a heap of stuff over here. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is, I don't think I created my T array. I did not. Okay, so we need another private variable over here. Okay, and I'm gonna kind of put my variables up here, so I'll just put it right here, I think. Or wait, nope, never mind. Never mind, it's right there. Pipes. Okay, so we wanted that. All right. So when we tear down a level, as we start generating different pipes, we're going to stick them into this T array, this pipe array, these pipes. These are the things that we've generated. So when we tear it down, we want to be able to remove those. So since I'm, already here, I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. Give myself a little bit of space. All right. And I'm going to be doing an awful lot of logging in this, and the way I decided I'm going to set up my logging for this is going to be to key all of that to the development build. So when we go to a shipping, it just will be stripped out, and it won't come along with it. But anything that's a development build will have all the logging built into it. So that's the plan. So in order to do that, what we can do is we can say if, and then it's UE underscore build underscore development. Okay. And then we give it an end if. And that should work just fine. Yep. Okay. Let's kind of kick that over a little bit there. Okay, so now I can log. All right, so then I'm going to say UE log. And it's going to be Itsy play level script. And then this is going to be just a log, I think. Log text. And then we will say tear down started. Actually, I think I'm gonna make this a warning so it sticks out. So there, it's a warning. And then we'll do another one at the bottom. So when we're done, it'll say that it's completed its task. So then this will kind of be dovetailed between these two warnings. So right now there's not going to be a whole heck of a lot in the middle, but we will get to the point where there will be just a lot more in here, because we'll have to, anything we build we'll have to tear down. So I want to make sure that that's just kind of set up. Okay, so then we're going to add a simple for loop. So for auto pipe and pipes. And then we're going to do pipe dot destroy. All right. And then just make sure that our pipes array is emptied. We're going to say empty. And that should clear it out. Now, I did try this before, because empty, according to the documentation here, it says that it will call the destructors on the items as well. I tried that, didn't work. So instead of just emptying it, I'm just going through the array, just calling destroy on each of the pipes that are in there, and then I'm emptying it at the end to make sure that the actual T array there for the pipes doesn't have any bad data. So this should do just fine. It'll go ahead and loop through and remove all of those objects. So we can do that during, at runtime. So at this point, this is happy. So our teardown is good. The next thing we're going to do is scroll down to our build level, and we're going to get started on the build level. And then we're going to circle back and, make these other functions work. So we'll probably call them before we make them work. Okay, so in the build level, what we're going to want to do is first check, and this is probably in your code already, the if B has been built equals true. Then we are going to go ahead and I'm just going to copy and paste my log here for brevity, because I think you actually have this in your code already. If not, it's pretty easy. Okay, so like I've got my development build and I'm logging, build level. Obviously, the way I'm doing my formatting here is I have the class as the category in my log. I have the, verbosity, and I'm using warnings for like, something I want to stick out, errors for something that goes wrong, and log for just general information. And then I'm putting in the function that's calling it, and then whatever the information is there. So it'll be really easy for me to find errors and, try to hunt down bugs as I go. So that's kind of the idea there, so. So anyway, I've got my log in there, so it's going to say, it found that a level is there, and now it's going to tear down. So then it's going to call tear down level. So there you go. So what that'll do is that'll go ahead, and if the level's already generated, it'll tear it down before we start building a new one. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to get our level params. So get from game instance. Okay, and so we're going to go level params. So these are the level params here stored locally. And then we're going to say equals, and then game instance. Because remember, in the begin play, we check to make sure our game instance is correct, and then we move from there. So game instance, we want get level params. There you go. Huzzah. And then since we did that, we also want to go ahead and we're going to do a log here, because I want to spit out the information there, so that way I can log it and say, oh yeah, okay, we're good. Like this is what the I want to know what the level params that just got loaded are. And so I already wrote this one out, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste it. So, and then I'll talk about it, and you can, do your own. So right here, what I did was I'm logging it, so it'll be, just gray text. Obviously build level params equal, and then what the seed value and the difficulty value is. And so that's pulling it off of its local level params. So there we go. That should be good. That's all properly logged. That we'll be able to see that. And the next thing we're going to do is our random stream. And I can't remember how much I talked about the random stream in the previous videos, but basically whenever you do random, like, you call a random whatever, it's based off of a seed. If you don't put anything in there, I'm pretty sure it's set off of, like some sort of algorithm based on the time, time and date that you're playing. That's usually kind of the standard. So for us, because like I said in the previous videos, we want to be able to set our game as a seed value. We want, like, if I have seed 1 and you have seed 2, we want our experiences to be identical. Or if we both have seed 1, we want our experiences to be identical, so that way we can compare and contrast our gameplay. So that's where we're going to use this random stream. Random stream is a class or a data type within Unreal that we can do a bunch of stuff with, and that's what we're going to be using. So it is going to be like the basis of all of our random generation. If you're not terribly familiar with it, think of it like a big, the way it was explained to me by one of my professors that I was like, wow, that's really cool, is if you think of your random as like a big book, right? So like it's a book full of like just all kinds of different numbers in it, like just a bunch of ones and zeros. And so, like, you go to the first page of the book and you say, I want a random whatever. It's going to pull out the number ones and zeros we needed for that from the first page. And then when you ask for something else, it's going to go to the next set of ones and zeros. So, like, if we have, like our seed is essentially saying, like, what page we're on. So go to this page. And it's pretty cool. So, like, I don't want to get bogged down too much into trying to explain that, but I really found it fascinating. So, all right, random stream. And then we're going to, so this is the local variable, or not local variable, this is the variable for our random stream here within our play level. And we're going to initialize that. So initialize. And then one of the options is to stick a seed in there. And we're going to want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in the seed from our level params, I do believe. Yep. So level params dot seed. Okay. So when we generate a level, it's going to initiate that. And then we're also going to want to log that. So that way I can, we're going to see when it pops out what that seed is. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm just going to kind of copy my code there, and then I'll actually pull the log out that I already wrote, just to kind of save us some time. So there, same thing there. So right now it's going to, post init is going to spit out the seed. So that way I know that this is the value after we initialize the random seed. And then it's going to give me the seed value from the current seed. So there you go. That is squared away. Our random seed is set. And then just for logging or for commenting, and then I don't know, I may go back and make that prettier later. Okay, so the next thing we're going to need to do is we are going to need to populate and create our spawn arrays for our start pipes, because remember, that's the focus of today, is just the start pipes. So create and populate spawn for. Okay, and then so we're going to create a T array, and it's going to be of type F weighted names. All right, and then we're going to call this spawn array and start pipes. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is call populate. Populate spawn array, and then we're going to feed it in the spawn array pipes. Actually, it's here, spawn array pipes. And then the data table for that. So pipe table start. And actually, before we do that, we're going to want to check to make sure that our table is correct. So why don't we put that right here? And we're going to go ahead and we will, let's see here, how do I want to do that? All right, so if pipe table start, and we're going to say if not, so then if it's empty, if it's a null pointer. And then, okay, so if our pipe table is junk, we are going to log it and we are going to kick it back out, and that's going to be an error. So initially I built like one check for all of them at the very beginning, but that made it, it worked, but it wasn't awesome. So, all right, so build level, and then it's going to be start pipe table is no. And then we'll turn that to error. And then we will go ahead, and once that logs, it's going to kick it back out as a false. So read return false. Okay. So there you go. So we null checked our pipe table start. Okay. So now we know it's good down here, and we don't have to worry about that breaking anything. Okay, so the pipe table is there. Our spawn array, we created it, so that's there. Okay, cool. Moving on. So let's see here. The next thing we're going to do is, let's see here. So I can't remember, does populate return? No, it doesn't. But start does. Okay, so if if not spawn start pipe, okay, and then we're gonna say get random spawn from array, or random spawn array, random name from spawn array, yeah. And then we're gonna say spawn array pipes, start pipes. There we go. So what this is doing is it's going to try to spawn a start pipe, getting a random name from the spawn array that we provide to it, which is the starting pipes array after we populated it. So if this kicks back as false, then we are going to log that as an error as well. Okay, and then so they're still in build level, and we're gonna say spawn start pipe failed. Maybe an exclamation point, because you suck. No, I'm just kidding. And then we don't need this random seed thing. Did I do that before, where I just kind of copied it and like left it up there, even though we're not using it? Yeah, I did. That's gonna cause problems. Get rid of that too. All right. Oh, there we go. Now it's good. Should be good. Should be good. Did I? Yeah, I don't have enough parentheses there. There goes. Now it'll fix it. I get to move it, and sometimes I miss stuff. Usually pops up though. Okay, there you go. So there we go. If it fails, it's gonna log it, kick it back, and then we'll want to return false, because this the build, I think, returns. So false. There we go. Actually move that over just so it looks nicer to me, and then I'll do that up here as well. That's just a personal preference thing. So, all right, there we go. Okay. All right, so we spun the star pipe, and then after that, if that all worked out, we are going to set B has been built equal to true. And then we'll go ahead and return true, and we will be out of the build. Okay, cool. So now that we've got, like this all set up where it's going to go through and do all the logging and try to do all the things it's supposed to do, now we need to fill out these functions that we created here, so that way it actually does the things that we want it to do. Okay, so we'll start with populate. This might get a little confusing, but I'll try to explain it the best way I can. So, all right, so we're going to try to populate this. We're going to need an F string for a context string. Like I said, we need that when finding rows. And then we need an int, or not an int, but int 32. And this is going to be last wait. We're going to set that to 0 starting out. And then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to loop through our data table. And we're going to, as we're looping through, we are going to do some checks, and then we're going to basically populate the spawn array with the F names that are appropriate from the data table. and then also calculate their weight. So that way we can use that later in the get random to get a name based on our random value, weighted value. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a for loop, and we're going to say for, and then we're going to do auto, and say, auto it. And then it's going to be a data. It's going to be the data table that we provided in, and then we're going to get its row map. Get row map. Okay, and then that will give us a map, the map of all the row names that we can then like iterate through. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to have pipe table row base, and then call this row. So this is like the row that we're working with. Or say data table. Find row, and then it's going to be of the same type. So F. Oh no, I don't want. Do I want there? Yeah, F pipe table row base, and then it's going to be it dot key, which is its F name, and then context row. All right. So then what we're doing is for each one, we're going to go in and we're going to find the row of information for that key, because we're going to need that as we go. So then we're going to do a quick null check, and we're going to say if not row. So like if that's null, then so if that is null, and then we'll go ahead and do the same kind of thing we've done up here. We're going to create an error that we can log. So, okay. If, all right, and then we'll say this, we'll rechange the name to populate pipe spawn array. All right. Row invalid. We'll try that, see if that works. All right, and then we will just return. So, because this one doesn't return anything. I could have set that up to return a Boolean value, but I think it'll be okay just the way it is. I can always change that later. Okay, so there we go. So if the row is junk, it's gonna pick up, it's gonna log an error, and then it's gonna return out. So it's gonna stop trying to do stuff. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to check to see if the difficulty is correct. So if row dot difficulty, so if the difficulty of the row is greater than, yeah, if it's greater than level params dot difficulty, we're gonna go ahead and break. So what that'll do is that'll break from this loop. So like if that's the wrong kind of difficulty, it'll break out, hit the next iteration, keep on going. So that'll help us parse out our difficulties. So yeah, so if this is greater than the difficulty, yeah. So like if this row's difficulty is 10 and this one is 11, or wait, if, yeah, if this is 10 and this is 9, it'll kick it back. But if this is 9 and this is 9, they should, it should be fine. So, okay, cool. That should work. So, Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually start working with that spawn array. So spawn array dot in place. We're going to go ahead and create a new was it weighted name? So it's going to construct a new f weighted name within this array. So that's what it's going to do first because we know we're going to use it, and then we're going to hit spawn array dot last. So now because we've created something, but we don't, it's just standard values. So we're going to set its name, and then its name is going to be equal to the current iterations key, which is also an f name. So then that'll set its name. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to work with the weights. So we're going to say spawn array dot last. And then we're going to get its weight. And then its weight is going to be equal to the last weight plus the row weight. And then that will work. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set the last weight to the new weight. So we're going to say last weight is going to be equal to spawn array dot last, so the element that we were working with, and weight. So what this is going to do is, so like the first one's going to be 0 plus whatever the weight is in the row. So if it's 1, the first first thing is going to be 1, and then the next one would be if it's also 1, it'll be 2, and it'll just keep on going. And what this will allow us to do is create the weights in a way that we can then say, generate a random number in between 0 and the maximum weight that we have in there, and it will then pick up the correct item or the correct name that we can then feed in. Okay, and then one last thing we're going to want to do in here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to want to log this stuff, and I'm just going to copy what I already did just for brevity. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing this. Why is it a warning? I don't want that to be a warning. I want this to be a log. Okay, log. Okay, so now each time it adds one, it's gonna put that information in there so we can see. It's gonna add, and it'll give us the name of whatever that f name is. So like what we're trying to spawn, and then what its weight is. Or now, basically, you'll see when we log it, it'll pop right up, and I will show it. Okay, so that should work for our getting our to populate our spawn arrays, right? So just to walk through what we did, we created the context string, we set a last weight of 0. And then we iterate through the map of row names, and we check the row. We grab the row. We double check to make sure everything worked out with the row. And then we go in and we start populating the spawn array with a name and then a calculated weight. So that's what this is all about right here, because then we can go back and use that array. So that's the thing there. So the next one we're going to work on is going to be the get random. So this is where the magic happens, where we're going to take what we just did there and we're going to do stuff with it. Okay, so we're going to have an int 32, and we're going to call this target. And then I can't remember if I initially set that or anything. No, yeah, I do. I used the random to set it, actually. So it's going to be a random stream. So that's that random stream that we have. And its minimum value is 0. And its maximum value is going to be spawn array. Because remember, we're passing the spawn array into this. And then it's going to be its weight. So spawn array last, because we want the last element, because it's going to have the highest value, and its weight. And then see what I did. Did I do something wrong? Let's see here. Spawn array. Last dot weight. Random stream. Oh, We want random in range. So there you go, random in range, and then now it picks it up. So we want the random stream, random in range, and then the minimum value we're feeding into the random in range is 0, and the maximum is the last weight. So there you go. That'll kick back a target for us. And then we're probably going to want to go ahead and log that again as well. So I will go ahead and pull this guy, pop it in there, and then I just copy what I already did again. Just swap out the log. I'm just trying to save a little bit of time while I'm doing it. So some of these videos can get awful long. Okay, so now it's going to say, we're going to, get random name, blah, 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 blah. It's going to give the target weight. So that way we know, what the target weight's going in there, and it'll help us if we need to identify anything. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is just a simple for loop. Nothing too taxing here. So I'm going to do int 32 I equals 0. There we go. I is going to be less than equal to spawn array dot last dot no, that's not correct. Spawn array dot num -1. Okay, and then we're gonna iterate our increase our I value. So num is the amount of elements in the array, so it's like size. So like, if there's 6 elements in the array, it'll say 6 elements, but you need to subtract 1 because your loop is 0 based and the num is not, so that's why the -1 is there. You're wondering why. All right, so if, and then within the loop we're going to check each one, so spawn array, and then we're going to get the I element of that and its weight. And we're going to see if it's less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to the target. Okay, and if it is, we are going to log the return values. So I'd copy a little thing there. And then, like I said, I did this once before, so I'm kind of copying some of it. I don't think I put, or I didn't end up putting the development stuff in there, so I'm just kind of pulling it in there. So in here, I'm going to log that I'm getting the random from spawn array and what it's returning. So I'm taking its, return to string, so I can get that. All right, and then it is going to return. We'll actually do the return. So spawn array at the I element, and you want its name. So that should work just fine. And then we'll leave this in here because we can then use that to say, hey, something went wrong if need be. And it has to have a return value everywhere anyway. So there you go. It's going to loop through, check to see whether or not, see when it gets to the first one that is greater or equal to the target weight. And once it gets there, it's good to go. It'll spit that back out. Okay. So this is all done there. The next thing down is going to be our spawn start pipe. Spawn start pipe. So this is pretty easy here. This is actually not even a whole heck of a lot of code. So we're going to say, hey, Itsy start pipe. We are going to need that in our includes. So include Itsy, or actually no, it's Itsy pipe start. Pow. All right, so now we got that, and then we can go back down to our spawn and then we can name that the right thing. So it's A, Itsy pipe start. Okay, so there, now it's working. And then we'll call it new start pipe. So I'll call it new start pipe. That's what I'm gonna call it. And then we're gonna go ahead and spawn it. So we're gonna say get world dot spawn actor. Okay, and then this needs a type, so it's a Itsy pipe start, and then we're gonna say a Itsy pipe start, and then static class, and then we need to know where where to put it. So it needs a location and it needs a rotation. So in this case, we want it at 0, 0, 0, and we want it not rotated. So we're just going to feed in an F vector. And then 0 vector. 0 vector. And then it needs a rotation. It's the same thing, F rotator. And then we're going to do a 0 rotator. 0 rotator. And that should spawn it, not a problem. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to check to make sure everything went right. So if new start, so if not new start point, so dot init pipe, and then it's going to be pipe name, and then it's going to be pipe table start. So we're going to feed in the start table, and then if that fails, we're going to return false. And then that should get picked up by some of the other logging. If it ends up being an issue, we can add additional logging, but I don't think we need to at this point. And then we're going to say pipes. So that's our array of pipes that we've spawned. And then we're going to say add. And then we're going to say new start pipe. So because we want to be able to use that to tear it back down if we need to. Okay. And then let me double check, make sure everything's good. Begin play is there with build level. So begin level. Okay, regenerate is in there. I think we are probably good to test. I think so. Yeah. Should be good. Okay, so let me go ahead and build this, make sure I didn't, junk anything up, and then we'll open it up in the editor and create our data table. So while this is thinking, I will pause the video. Okay, so everything compiled, and I loaded up the editor, and now we can work with our stuff check to see if everything worked out. So we're going to need our data table. So we're going to go ahead and create a new data table. And then we're going to say F start, actually start pipe. Yeah. So we're going to make that from the start pipe row base. Okay. Start pipe table. Okay. And then I can drag this data table over here so we can see it. Just kind of make this a little bigger just to make me happier. All right, and then create a new data table or a new entry. And then, as you can see now, so we get all of the things that we had from the original row base, which is the difficulty, the weight, the type, and the mesh. But we also get this player start location. So like that's the specific data to this. So everything worked out as far as our parenting goes. So the first one, I'm going to go ahead and make that the first start pipe. And then I'll add another one. I'll make this the second start type, or start pipe. And I'll add another one and do the third start pipe. And then I will change their row names. That way I can see what they are. So I'll say start 01. You don't have to do that. Later on, when we start getting more serious with the data tables, we'll export them out, and then we'll be able to change things in like Excel or something like that. So, but for now, this works just fine. We're gonna leave the difficulty at 0 because I don't want to parse anything out. Same thing with the weights for our first test, and we'll see if everything works out. So make sure everybody's got a. Yep. Okay. All right. So we should theoretically be able to play, and we should have generated a level. We should have generated things. We did not generate things. Let me look again to see what happens. Hit play. And then here, I'll hit regenerate. Regenerate seeded level. We'll just say 2. Okay, so error. Start pipe table is null. Okay, yeah, that explains why it didn't work. So here we go to the level blueprint, because that's where we screwed up here, is we didn't set a pipe table. So now that we have a pipe table, we can set it. And then we compile and save. Now when we play, boom, there is a pipe table, or a pipe. So you can see that loaded start 0, 1. And you can see here, down here, you can see where everything loaded. So it didn't have a level to start, so it didn't get rid of any of that. So at built level, the level params are seed 0, difficulty 0, which is what we initialize everything to anyway. And then, so then its random seed is set to 0. It creates our spawn array. So we've got 1, 2, and 3 with weights 1, 2, and 3. That all lines up with what our expected values. Down here it says get a random 1 in range, and it ends up at weight 0. So then that kicks it onto the first one in the array. So good. Okay, so now we can kind of play around with the seed values. So regen seeded level, and we'll say 2. And then now you can see that it says that it found an existing level, and then it needed to start and complete. Okay, so seed level went in correctly, and then let's see here. So yeah, posting is 1, and then it gets random. It got a weight of 1, so that ends up being 1. All right, and then we can do it again. Regen seeded level. Let's do 4, just some random numbers. And then see what that kicks out. Yep, so now we got a different one here. So it had a target weight of 3. And now what we can also do to continue further testing this out to make sure everything is right, we can change these weights. So like we could change the weight of the first one. Let's change it to 10. So it'd be the equivalent of 10% if we end up making them all add up to 100. And we'll make this one 30%. And then, so that leaves us, that's 40%. So we need another 60 to even that out, right? So doesn't matter what we put in there. Doesn't have to be between 1 and 100. It will calculate it out the same regardless. All right, so then we've got that in there. Now we should be able to then hit play. Okay, and then, so now its target weight was 21, so it kicked out 2. I can go over here if I want to like look at it. I may end up, as we do this, I may end up pulling out the Itsy character, so that way I can zoom back and zoom in, just use like the controller. So you can see everything is lining up correctly. I can then go again, and let's give it another seed. So regen seeded, and then let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, just to see what that comes out with. I have no idea what these are gonna pop out. We could create a a table of what our expected values are, and then verify that everything's working there, but I don't think we're going to do that at this point. I don't think that's necessary for what we're doing. So it looks like at 1, 2, 3, it gave us a weight of 62, and so then the highest one that it reaches is going to be 3. So if we look over on our, oops, yeah, well, here, we'll try that again. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over here to the default pawn and just put none. And then that should give me just the... no, it doesn't give me the... so default pawn... just default pawn. So that should allow me to... Yeah, now I can like just zip around like I'm not even there. Okay, so now I can see... I've got start 2 there, and I can actually... do regen, seated level, and we'll do, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, just random numbers, see what that kicks out. Looks like that ended up with 2 also, so interesting. All right, well, so seed, regen level, seated, and then we'll say, we'll do 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, so that looks like it kicked out 3, and you can see it changed. And then the other thing we can double check while we're here, if we go over into the outliner while we're still playing, you can see that this is just, we only have 1 start pipe, so that's good. That means our teardown took everything out that was supposed to be gone. So if I go back into the thing and I regen, that 2 will go away if I regen again. And it'll probably be replaced with like 3 because I didn't feed it any specific naming rules. So let's say 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay, looks like we still ended up with 3, but you can see over here in the outliner that, 3. So at this point, everything works. Like if you followed along, you should now be able to regenerate your level, as you would prefer. And let's go over here for now, so you can see this in the plan later, as we generate like the whole map. And again, I think lighting is going to be something we're going to have to really dig into later. So I put in another value, we'll say 777, and then looks like 777 is the same. Awesome. Well, that makes sense because like the highest weight value is the 3rd one, so that one should pop up more often than the rest of them. So let's see if I can find a seed that regen level, just put it back to 0. So there you see, everything is working. So eventually, like I said, in the next set of videos, we're going to work on adding more pipes and continue generating our level. But at this point, all of the framework is kind of in there for us to kind of continue along. We'll need some additional fiddly bits to be able to decide what pipes can take what other pipes. So like what the next pipe would be. So like, for example, like, like our start pipes are all vertical pipe. We don't want the next pipe to be like a 45-degree angle. It would not work out right. So that's something I'm kind of playing around with my head where I want to put that information. I'm probably going to end up putting it in the level blueprint. We'll see how that all goes. As far as this video, if you're still watching the video and hanging with me, seriously, super big thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. Like I said, I'm not real big, so I can answer comments pretty easily. Do all the YouTubey things, like and subscribe. I hope your day goes well, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.